are live from the Transworld 2023 conference in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, it's an amazing conference. You can hear it in the background. It is buzzing here. We have over 300, almost 400 people here. It's going to be incredible couple days.
In today's economy, more people than ever are looking to buy and sell businesses. But how do you do it? Welcome to the Deal Board, presented by Transworld Business Advisors. Straight talk about real deals and real people. Listen to stories, interviews, and expert advice to help your business sale, merger, or acquisition process. Now, here are your business exit experts, Andy and Jessica.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And we are tired. We just had an amazing conference. And today's episode is hearing from some of those folks. But we wanted to get you, and we have like a little bit of an intro. So when we were at the conference, so a few things. Number one, it was a little loud in the room. So there's a little bit of background noise, but it's not bad. I don't think it was as bad as I thought it was. And we seem to be shouting into the microphones a little bit. So, but it's a great, there was a lot of takeaways from the conference. And, Jessica, what was your biggest takeaway from the conference?
Well, I mean, aside from the fact that a lot changes in 12 years, right? So it was really funny. And we talked about this, a few of us standing on stage, and just looking at the crowd, right? And thinking back about, I think my first conference was back in 2013, and we were in like this little room in Chicago, right? And we just celebrated, and we just did a whole series about the history of Transworld and Transworld's 12 years for franchising. And then standing up there and seeing, what was there, 400 people in the room this year? Yeah. So, I mean, it was just electric, right? And I think so, like, that's probably one of my biggest just generic takeaways is a lot can change in a business in a decade, right? You hear that saying is that you overestimate what you can do in a year, but you underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And it was just incredible. The energy was incredible.
Yeah, it is awe-inspiring. Standing up on stage, like you said, getting up there, and there's 400 people in the room, and they're all, flying the Transworld banner. And, there's been some great things on social media. If you haven't checked them out, whether it was the group picture that we all took in the lobby of the Renaissance when we were up in Orlando, or it was the pictures from our event at the House of Blues. I mean, renting out the whole House of Blues and having a great night there. It's, those kind of things are, once in a lifetime. And, hearing from our franchisees from across literally the world is kind of the subject of this episode as well. But, I think we could also take a step back and just talk about the generic state of the economy. We've been predicting over the last few episodes, talking about interest rates being higher and talking about the SBA bankers kind of cranking down on their financing and their terms and, whatever their valuations are. But I don't know, there was so many banks in the room.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was another big takeaway. Is like, it's really not like, look, it's normalizing. We're not still climbing in terms of, an industry. There's definitely like, I think we hit the I wouldn't say the max, but the top. We're like at the top, but like it's still cranking, right? So it's super interesting that, and I know, I can't speak for the Fed, but I know they're probably frustrated with this. We're not, right? But no matter what interest rates are doing, like businesses are still getting sold. And businesses are still getting sold for good valuations. And we see with our clients, there's a lot of businesses that are still doing really, really well. The franchisees of Transworld and Transworld as a whole included.
I don't know what it is, but literally this morning at our sales meeting here in Florida, we had two sellers. One passed away right before the closing, and one is in the hospital right before the closing, where, both situations where significant others have had to step into that situation and try to sell it. And I don't even know what the implications are with the estate of the one business owner, whether or not the wife was, or the significant other was on the paperwork. But it just kind of shows me that business owners out there, you've hung on too long. I mean, you've hung on too long, and there's still an amazing opportunity. So that's one big takeaway from the conference is that, the rumors of the business sale marketplace dying this year are it's not happening yet.
No,
I mean,
it's not
it
happening
might
yet.
catch up a little bit, but
It might catch up a little bit. And I mean, like we've talked a little bit too, is that there is the perception. I think the only thing really hurting the market is the perception. Like we do have buyers coming in and thinking like this is, the next coming of 2008 or worse. And the reality of the situation is it's just not, right? So everything's going really well, right? The business market is going really well. And we've got a ton of content that we still have to come out. We've done some of them with Shane Hall with some of the new changes to the business for sale market that are really going to be beneficial to all business owners. That I think is just going to take the whole marketplace in a new direction. And I know you and I are working on how is that going to work out and how can we communicate that? But there's a lot of huge opportunities for business owners in the future too, in terms of how to sell their business, how much of their business to sell. Just a little teaser, but there's just a lot more opportunity than I've ever seen before. And Andy, I'm sure you as well.
Yeah, that was hot at the conference, right? That was the next hot topic, was the stock sale compliance law that got passed. And, we just sold the business again this morning. One of the business sales turned into a 70% sale. And we did the deal and we got paid. And guess what? No harm, no foul. I mean, certainly there was complete clarity that was legal for everyone to do. And we didn't run afoul of the SEC regulations. So while things are getting more complicated, I think one of the other things that happened during the conference was the talk that everybody needs to get back to basics, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, but it's a theme I've heard generically throughout small business and entrepreneurship the last, I'd say like 6 to 12 months, right? It's just getting back to basics. There was this whole, COVID pandemic, virtual reality, almost business world for the last 2 years. And now that we're past that, a lot of the basics that had worked in starting a business, growing a business, previous to all that is working again. Things like networking, getting face-to-face with prospective clients and, your referral partners. There's a lot of talk about that. And yeah, it's really, I don't think it's interesting. It makes sense, right? It's like, okay, it's like like a duh moment, right?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is a lot of businesses, as they've, grown during this pandemic phase or had to make adjustments, right? So they're now readjusting, right? So I had one business that had too much inventory, right? Mm-hmm. So they, during the issues with supply chain, they just decided, all right, we need to carry 3 times more inventory. Well, guess what? The prices of the commodities have come down. So the inventory that they have on the books is really expensive inventory. Yeah. They're running, I said, well, you guys just need to change the FIFO and your P&L look better. Yeah. Oh no, excuse me, LIFO.
LIFO, yeah.
So yeah, that, I don't want to confuse too many people. But the other thing is that, since inflation of both, prices have gone up and so is labor. And now that interest rates have gone up, I see a lot of business owners now having to buckle down. And I think this was part of the topic at the conference, is everybody's looking at their P&Ls and saying, all right, we need to manage our P&Ls anymore. We're not getting free PPP money anymore. Yep. We're not being able to charge more money. All of a sudden the prices are coming down and everybody's trying to react to that. So like you said, back to basics. It's like, you have to run your company again.
Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of we are going to talk about some innovative stuff too that came up, but a lot of it was like, hey, what worked in 17, 18, 19, and let's go back to that playbook, right? The inventory is a great point. Another thing we've seen a lot is that, online advertising has gotten super expensive and competitive because during the pandemic, everybody thought everyone was online, which they were, right? But now people are coming off their computers, off their phones. They're reattending these networking events and things like that. And there's more advertisers online. So it's just adjusting your strategy. So it's back to basics, but it's just, as business owners, we have to be flexible and adaptable to the marketplace. That's part of what makes us successful. And it's just reanalyzing what the current strategy needs to be in your business.
Yeah. And while that was all going on, the other big topic, which you teased a second ago, was ChatGPT. I mean, everybody's kind of like pulling their hair out, trying to figure out, and I've already done that, but trying to figure out exactly how to use it in their business. And certainly the first step seems like content creation is the easy thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, an AI, like, look, AI is going to change the world. We don't know how yet, though. You know, what I was thinking about is it's about this time last year. I interviewed a tech innovator named Pascal Finette. He was on our show. So if you guys go back and listen to that, he talks about, and he's an expert in futurism, right? And he talks about when a new type of technology enters the marketplace. It's really funny because this was like a year ago and Pascal and I didn't even talk about AI, right? So that's how quickly things can change, right? But he talked about how you can vet how to use it in the business. And he talked that the first stage when something emerges, you have all these people rushing to figure out how it's going to work. And it's not really until not even the second stage, but the third stage of the technology where it matures enough that you're able to use it. So there's a lot of ideas out there right now. We were just talking about some of the ideas, but I think the greater theme for me and what it made me think about this AI conversation is about innovation and experimentation and how important that is as a business owner, right? It could be with AI, it could be with some of the back to basics that we talked about, but staying not just ahead of the curve, but just trying something different in the business. Yes, do the basics that work, but spend 10 or 20% of your time just figuring out, does AI work for your business and how can it work, right? So there's a lot of conversation around that.
Yeah, I met with a company while we were there talking about AI and ChatGPT, and they said to me that they feel that there's probably about a 36-month window where maybe you could gain an advantage over your competitors using AI, but everything will just kind of catch up. And one of the other interesting things they said was something that may be too expensive to do with ChatGPT now because it's just not up to speed. 2 months from now could be inexpensive.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy. So
yeah, but I
think there's a lot. That was definitely the buzz talk at the conference. And then, of course, you were celebrating your 10 years with your team, and there was all kinds of awards. And then, Transworld just won a bunch of awards, and Jennifer Fox won CBI of the Year, which I thought was a really nice award for her to get. But just taking home the trophies was really nice. You guys, again, in Colorado and Texas, won #1 franchisee of the year again, MVP. But it was just a nice event.
It was a nice event, and it was really inspiring to see how well people have done and some of the new franchisees that have grown really quickly. I was also reflecting, and I was like thinking about when we first created the award for the first $1 million office, which I think we got in like 16 or something like that, right? And thinking about, we joined the franchise in 13, took us 3 years. And then I was looking around the room and watching these franchisees that it now takes them a year, maybe 2 years for some of them to get up to that multi-million-dollar level. And it's really inspiring. So
yeah, we just celebrated in the Bahamas, and we had our top offices there. And again, like you said, they were from all over the country. I mean, it's just not 1 or 2 offices anymore. It's, literally a couple dozen now that were eligible to come, and they, many of them were there, and it was just nice. And some of them like you said, have not been in business before. And we did interview some of them for this show, and you're going to hear from them in a few.
Yeah. So what we've got planned for you today, Andy did mention we recorded some live interviews. I think the loudest part is probably going to be us, right? Because it sounded loud to us, but the mics that we've invested in, fortunately, keep the background noise. Great mics, right? Shout out to Rodecaster there. But it's some great interviews. You get to hear some different voices, different stories about how they've launched their businesses in their areas across the country.
Yeah, it's a great show. Buckle up, listen in, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Transworld Business Advisors is the world's largest business brokerage and mergers and acquisitions firm with over 500 brokers in nearly 200 offices worldwide. Transworld's team handles thousands of business sales every year. To be connected with a qualified business broker or learn more about the buying and selling process, visit tworld.com/the deal board or call 888-719-9098.
Welcome to the Deal Board, everybody. We are live from the Transworld 2023 conference in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, it's an amazing conference. You can hear it in the background. It is buzzing here. We have over 300, almost 400 people here. It's going to be incredible couple days.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic year, fantastic couple years from not just business brokerage, but Transworld Business Advisors, especially. Huge growth, huge success. And it's just fun to be with the whole Transworld family this year.
Yeah, listen, we thought Denver was big. And
I know,
right?
My
God, we're probably like 25% even more than that. So we are looking forward to a great conference. We're going to be interviewing a bunch of people. We have some great deals of the week and listings of the week for you. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, today's show is really a good touch on the market. You're going to hear from brokers from all over the country, different listings, different opinions.
How they got started.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to ask them how they launched their area, what's going on in their area. So really great overview, no matter where you're listening from, U.S., international, you're going to get value out of today's show.
Yeah. Hang in there. This is going to be a great show.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And we are talking launching your area. And there's no one more that I wanted to talk to than JT Tatem of Transworld Business Advisors of upstate South Carolina and Western Asheville, North Carolina.
Yes.
And he is the man on many levels. You're about to hear why, but JT, welcome. And let's just talk about, listen, you were in a second career and you decided to launch Transworld.
That's right. Well, thanks, Andy, for the invitation to be a part. And of course, I love being a part of your brand and the business that Transworld has built up with the help of United Franchise Group and the franchising side. But you guys were in the business of selling businesses long before you got into the franchise world. But 13 years ago now, I think it is, when you guys first kind of kicked this thing off. Yep. And what was really interesting for me, as you said, it's kind of the second career. The guys at United Franchise Group keep saying, "Oh, how's retirement?" And I keep saying, if this is retirement, put me back to work, okay? Because launching a new business, whether it's a franchise or an independent, or you're taking over an existing business, there's a lot of work to be done. And the benefit of the franchise side, of course, is all the systems are put in place, and you just kind of follow that roadmap that they give you, but you still got to do the work. But that was really the challenge, and the kind of the attraction for me is I had spent 30 plus years helping other people get into business, build a business, eventually sell a business with our franchising, from Signorama to Embroider Me, now fully promoted, and then Billboard Connection, and the Great Greek, and John Smith Subs, and eventually Transworld, as you know. And so after 30 some odd years of helping other people do it, I thought, I'd really like to do that for myself. But of course, watching Transworld join the family after all the success you guys had individually and independently, and then becoming a part of the franchise, just made it really, I thought it would be easy to go into the sign business. I know that already, but where I wanted to be, that was really the key piece for my wife and I, where it wasn't so much what I wanted to do, but where I wanted to do it, which was upstate South Carolina and Asheville, Western North Carolina. My daughters were there, my grandkids were there. So that was, when the queen is happy, there's peace in the kingdom, and mama wanted to be in where the grandkids were. So that made it easy to make that decision. And the Transworld brand had not yet really penetrated the specifically Greenville East market at that point. So that's kind of where we landed. But what was really helpful for us was being able to launch the business following the Transworld prescribed plan, And when I first did it, someone said, "Are you going to go to training school?" And I said, "Absolutely. I want to go through the same exact steps as every other franchisee. And I don't want to assume that I know something that I don't know." And so your team was instrumental really in laying the foundation, giving me the game plan. Here's the process that you go through. And, you start with yourself and maybe one other person, but the program says hire some agents and then get some administrative and marketing staff. And so slowly that's what you do over time. And that's what we've done. And today we have the three physical locations, one in Asheville, in Biltmore Park, and then another in Spartanburg that we just opened last year. And then our main office, the original office, is in Greenville, South Carolina. So
that's awesome. It's funny. You've helped launch thousands of people. What was different from watching others do it versus you doing it yourself?
That's a great question, because when the shoe was on this foot, when we were on the franchisor side, and going back to 86, starting the very first Signorama store, I think I was part of that and seeing how do you establish a brand new location and the marketing that needed to be done, and then producing the product and pleasing the customers, et cetera, et cetera. But what was different for me then, and I'll get to the second part of the question, was then we had to create all the systems. We didn't have the systems. We were in that mode in that first year or so in the Farmingdale, New York store. And then we launched the North Palm Beach store. It was still defining and deciding and understanding what the systems were going to be so that we could then capture all that and make it so a new franchisee could open in the Signorama brand. But then when you start, you go to training school and you go through the process, because as the franchisor, we're following a prescribed set of steps to get that new franchisee open. And they're doing a lot of the work. It's the simple things. You got to set up a corporation, and you got to get a federal ID number, and then you got to go and open your bank account, and you got to find the electric company and the phone company and all those things. But again, as UFG, they had put all of that together in a system and said, this is what you do. This is the order that you do it in. And that's what we had done for 30 years, helping other people do that. But we were giving them the direction, they were doing the execution. When you become the franchisee, they're giving you the direction. Now you're doing the execution. That's the different part. You're on the other side. And it gave me a great appreciation, Andy, that I didn't always have before for what a new entrepreneur goes through. It's one thing when you're the coach, and it's another thing when you're the player on the field executing the play. And that's what I became. I became the player on the field instead of just the coach on the sidelines. But it's been great. It's been a great experience. And I think it's helped me help you guys to a degree. I don't know if I'm saying that the right way, but I still kind of wear that franchisor hat as I do the things I do day by day to give feedback back to your team to say, hey, you guys might want to consider this, or I see that this has been beneficial for us. You might want to pass that along to the rest of the team. And that really is the power of the franchise model anyway, is that it's not just one person's way. There's so many best practices that other offices are doing that we can all share with each other and shortcut that learning curve of having to figure it all out on your own. So yeah. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but going from coaching to playing that's the major difference.
Yeah, usually it's the opposite way around. Usually you play, then you coach, and you've done
exactly,
both,
yes,
obviously.
Exactly right.
But, I think it's an interesting perspective, and you're absolutely right. You have been a huge asset to us. We appreciate when you come through training and give us pages of notes and go through meetings and give us pages of notes. And that's, extremely helpful. I mean, that's why I'm kind of ending this podcast with your interview for this specific reason. So
I guess it depends on what end of the receiving end of those notes you are, because I know that there's some meetings and I can see people looking at me going, oh, he's writing stuff down again. But, it's all intended to help make the whole system better. And I think that's what every franchisee in our system wants to do anyway. And so they're all really willing to share their feedback and their observation and their best practices, what's working best for them. So.
Yeah, I'm never afraid of those meetings. I'm about to go on the road to visit a bunch of franchisees. And I know when I get in a room, I'm going to get like feedback, especially when I'm one-on-one, that's not going to be something they would say in public. And that's good. I mean, I enjoy that. And I think the best ideas come from those kind of things and that critical feedback. And so, and it obviously goes both ways, right? So if you're out there in the world and whether you're a franchise or not a franchise, you need to have those mentors, or you need to have that source of critical kind of thinking and having being able to be criticized. So with that in mind, you've seen thousands of franchisees start up a business. You've been involved with many business owners now that you're with Transworld.
Yeah.
What do you see as some things that business owners don't do or should be doing that they're missing out on, that, we're talking about launching your franchise, launching an area or launching a franchise or launching a business. There are people that are obviously not successful in that. Perhaps the majority are not successful in that. And why don't you give us a few reasons why, you think they are?
Okay, well, that's a great question, really, especially because most people that listen to the podcast here are at some stage. They're either in it or they're about to get in it. So that's really good. And I want to go back to something you were saying earlier, that critical thinking, or that, critique really is more than what it is. It's not necessarily meant as criticism, but hey, this is a way to get better. But I had a mentor of mine for a long time, Coach Choe, and he used to say, JT, the feedback is the breakfast of champions. It's not Wheaties. And I thought, he's right. If you don't get that, then you can't see where the problem is because you're in it. And that third party outside giving you that feedback gives you clarity. Okay. So like today, as we're talking, I'm in a session where I'm doing some coaching of guys that are in business now and development of them, because I think that's an ongoing piece that has to happen. A lot of times entrepreneurs go at this like, okay, I've got to do this on my own. And again, whether you're getting into a franchise, which is a good reason to look at franchising, because you got a whole support system and team behind you and you're not doing it on your own. But even if you're taking over an existing business where someone else has put those systems in place, having mentors, having third-party people both in the company. And yesterday, the guys that I'm coaching, we were talking about who outside of the work of the organization is mentoring you, especially that guy or gal, because they've got a completely different point of view. They're not in it every day. So their filter and the way they see things is completely objective point of view, because they have nothing else that would be clouding their judgment based on the way we do things. Okay. So I think one of the first things you have to do is going in is knowing that you've put up a system together of people inside the organization who can help you, and also having some critical outside people who can look in and give you some feedback. That would be the first. The second thing, and this has always been true even in the franchising world, with the United Franchise Group family is 1,600 locations in 80 countries around the world. Those are the people who are in business now, but some of those people have bought the business from someone else. So it arguably could be 3,000 or 4,000, 5,000 people that we've put into business over 30 some odd years. And one of the first things is, putting a plan together. And that sounds simplistic. I got to have a business plan. But what the mistake I see most people make is they put a plan together and then they stick it in a file cabinet and they never look at it again. And that's why go through the exercise short of, well, I have to have a business plan to get funding. Okay. But that should be coming out on a frequent level. Let's not say all the time, but frequently going back to, okay, this is what I said I was going to do. How am I doing on that? One of the exercises we went through with the guys yesterday was, all right, well, it's now June of 2023 and you're coming to halftime. What were the goals you set out for yourself this year? And on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on each one of those? And that shouldn't just happen halfway through the year or at the end of the year. There should be a temperature check happening, on a monthly basis. Like, am I on track? And if I am, pat yourself on the back and keep going. If you're not, what adjustments do you have to make to get there? So you can't just say, I'm buying the business, put a plan together, and then just go at it and never come back and say, am I on track with what I'm doing? I think that's a critical piece, a mistake that I see a lot of people make. And I'm speaking from my own experience. Like, I went through that whole process and put it together. And the first year, you put your head down, you got your blinders on, and you're so focused on going forward that you don't stop often enough to kind of say, am I going in the right direction still? Because, if you're a pilot and you set out on a journey and you're off by 1 degree, but you're only going 100 miles, no big deal. You're going 10,000 miles, 100,000 miles and you're off a degree, you're going to wind up in a place very far different than you set out to at the beginning of the journey. So you need to keep checking wind speed, tail speed, all that, tailwinds, et cetera. All that stuff is going to have an impact on you. And that's the same in business. There are going to be things that are going to happen, COVID, employee issues, inflation, whatever, supply chain issues that could change the trajectory of where you're going. And if you don't react to those things by continually looking at those compared to your plan, then you're probably making a mistake.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. Have a plan, and check the plan as you're executing. But a lot of times, I think, I haven't talked about this much today, but I've talked about it before, is a lack of execution. I mean, just getting out of the bed. I mean, at some point, a partner of mine, or early partner of mine, wrote his thesis on, what did he call it? He called it opportunistic entrepreneurialism or something. Like he thought that long range planning was kind of BS, because if you're an entrepreneur, you really have to react and move quickly. Right. And so, and I took whatever, it was an interesting thesis, but, I think in practicality, there's a balance there. But what I always see is, some people have paralysis by analysis. So there's a balance there, right?
Yeah. Well, because as an entrepreneur, new opportunities are going to come your way, and you can't be so dogmatic that, no, I can't do that because it's not part of the plan. And maybe that's what, part of his thesis is. You have to be opportunistic when that opportunity comes along to say, how does this help me get where I'm going? One of the things we're going to talk about today with our guys is, I'm a question guy. Like, I question a lot of things in my head. Like, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Here's a popular question in my mind, right? Is what I'm about to do going to move me closer to or further away from my goal? It's not complicated. Every decision I make all day long, am I going to watch that Netflix streaming movie and binge, or am I going to do something productive with the time? Because that 2 hours, once it's gone, it's gone. I can't get it back, right?
Right.
And that's not to say you can't have fun and you can't schedule and do those entertainment things, but is that going to get you what you're looking for, right? Is my activity today going to get me closer to achieving my business goal? And if it isn't, then why am I doing that? And again, I'm probably oversimplifying it, but that's a temperature check for me each day. Like, okay, these things I put down on my list, are they going to get me where I need to get to? When I put my head on the pillow at night, am I going to feel good about those decisions that I made and the actions that I took and executed on? Or am I going to go, I didn't get that done. I really wish I had done that instead. I don't want to live a life of regret, Andy. I want to live a life on purpose. I like to be very intentional about what I do. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, don't lose the intensity. So again, today we're talking to these guys about being intensely intentional and being intentionally intense. And those are two remarkably different things that at some other point in time, I'm happy to unpack.
Well, we do have you on every year to talk about goals. It's kind of been a tradition, and I'm glad that we caught you about halfway through the year to talk about this. And great. Yes, we should have you on again, perhaps before the end of the year, to talk about intentions and
intensely intentional and intentionally intense.
Being intense. All right, yes. JT, let's go kill the day. It is morning when we're doing this, so we have lots of things to do today. So thank you so much again for coming on. If somebody wants to get in touch with you and talk more, what's the best way?
You can give me a call. A direct line is 864-315-8998, or by email at jt1@tworld.com.
That's it. Thank you so much, JT.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate you having me, buddy.
Hey, Andy, do you know what time it is? It's time for our deal of the week.
Deal of the week. Sold.
Welcome back, everybody. And this week for our deal of the week, we have Meili Myles. She's from Transworld Business Advisors of Utah County. And you just closed a very nice deal. Tell us a little bit about the business you just sold.
Yeah, so the deal is closed at full price, $2.1 million. And the good thing about this business is the seller know the buyer really well. And she actually prefers this buyer over the other buyer. We actually have about 2 or 3 backup offers after this
Wow.
one. But yeah, we
That's
make
the
everyone
power of
happy.
working with the right broker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So 2.1 million. What was the structure of the deal? Was it finance, seller finance, bank finance?
There is an SBA financing. It's about 1.9. So the buyer actually owns another business, so he could actually do a lot more down payment, but he's just being strategic and smart. So he put down about 20%.
Nice.
Of the.
And what industry was it
Yeah.
in? What type of business?
It is actually combinations between fine dining and an outdoor adventure.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Super interesting. Good deal price, especially in fine dining. So
Yes.
before we wrap up, is there any like lessons you feel like the business owner learned through the process would be helpful to share with the audience?
A lot of business owners, I feel like they, like we all know, they sometimes think their business is valued more than what we know.
Yeah.
So it's a good lesson. You have to give them the data, and then because this is a unique, I actually use a higher multiple, but we can justify it because it's a very unique and it's been around for more than almost 3 decades. So
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
It sounds like a really good deal. Good resolution for both buyer and seller. If someone wants to learn more about you or how to work with you in Utah, how can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me through my cell phone, 801-707-1957, or my email, myles@tworld.com.
Perfect. And we'll drop all that information to the show notes too. Meili, congratulations on a great deal for some great sellers.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're talking about launching Transworld in different areas of the country. And I have to say, Jonathan, I have Jonathan Choe with me from Transworld Business Advisors of
Oregon Central.
Oregon Central. I almost said Central Oregon, but it's Oregon Central. And we were fortunate enough last year, my wife and I, to visit you and Holly in Bend. And oh my, what an amazing place Bend is.
Yeah.
But, tell me about getting involved with Transworld and what's like launching in a smaller market like Bend.
Yeah. So when I made a career change, I looked at a lot of options, and the one that rose to the top was Transworld. And so I live in a community where you've been there. It's gorgeous. I wanted to stay there. It has 100,000 in my city, and in the community around there, about 160,000. So I didn't know much about business brokering, but I thought I had skills that could complement it. So we launched in our market, worried that maybe it was too small.
Right.
But, that didn't matter. I followed the playbook. I did what the playbook said to market the business. I hired agents right out of the gate, like we were taught. And then we were able to scale the business with agents, sent them to training, and just basically followed the playbook, and got a lot of support from Transworld and other owners. And now we have 10 agents in a market that we thought was too small to begin with. So,
and a multi-million-dollar producer.
Yeah. So I don't think it's the market so much. I think the brand and the support that we get really helps us to succeed. Because when I started, I couldn't spell business broker.
Right. And none of us could, right?
But the process works, and it's a great organization, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. And thank you for sharing it with the rest of us.
You guys are great. I mean, all you have to do is, you want to see what they're doing, follow Holly Choe on anything, on any social media. She's fabulous at telling your story. And, if you want to extend your story a little bit, you decided to expand beyond that now.
We did. We sold a business to our partner, who's now in Columbus, Ohio. And I sold her business, wanted her to be an agent. And then we decided to go into business together in Columbus. So that market is starting to take off. And I think she will be on stage next year.
I'm so looking forward to that. So you guys have done a great job. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing
Thank you.
Transworld with us.
All right, buddy.
Welcome back, everybody. And I am standing with Diane Hartz Warsoff. She is the co-founder of Transworld Business Advisors in Utah County,
Utah. And we're asking everybody today, Diane, tell us your launch story. How did you launch your area?
It's actually a pretty funny story. We consider ourselves accidental entrepreneurs. Both my business partner and I, Art, who happens to be my husband, had corporate careers. And when Art left his last position, he decided he didn't want to work for someone else again. And we were approached by a franchise broker, and Art said, they said, have you ever thought about buying a franchise? And we said, no. And I looked at Art and I said, we're not buying a carpet cleaning business because we'll end up cleaning carpets. And then we heard about Transworld, and we realized that with my background in finance, his background in risk management and accounting, that it was a really good fit for a way for us to help small business owners, which we really liked, along with using our skill set to help them successfully sell their businesses. And we actually bought our territory from another owner. So it's been great to have that partnership with them because they helped us when we got started. And I can honestly say we would not have been able to get to where we are today without the Transworld brand.
Yeah, it's a great story. I love how you brought in your past experience to find something that would really suit you. But also one thing that I tell business owners too, not to forget about, is pick something you're going to love to do every day.
Yes.
Because you don't want to clean carpets, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's certain people that want to do more type of manual labor. Your background and experience, much more lending towards business consulting and working in small business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how long ago was that?
So we bought the business in 2016. Actually, at the time, I was running a housing nonprofit. So Art was on his own for about a year. And I'm going to say this loud and clear. This is not a one-person gig.
Yeah.
And after about a year and a half, he was begging for mercy. I joined him full time, and we haven't looked back.
You haven't looked back. You've been a huge contributor to your office, not only, but also the corporate brand.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane, for joining us on the Deal Board.
Thank you, Chet.
Welcome back, everybody. And today is on the Deal Board. As you know, we're talking about founding stories and how some of our franchisees got started in their areas. And I'm very excited to have a good friend and franchisee with me, Steve Hanson from the Southern California area, San Diego proper. So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about how you got started. You and Marshall, as partners, got started in your office. How did you become part of Transworld?
Jessica, thanks so much for having me on the podcast today. It's great being here at the Broker Fest.
Yeah.
So we started 12 years ago. My partner, Marshall, first started the business. I've known Marshall over 30 years. Then I joined him a few years later on. So we were one of the first franchises with a group. And my gosh, it's grown so much.
I know.
And it's so, one of the big things I can think of that's changed is just all of the support we get, all the things from the ad fund, even how Cindy works versus the old Salesforce platform we had. So over all these years, we've been able to really grow with Transworld. We've added 3 agents to our business, continue to grow. And we were in a position, early that we, came in. We had a lot of competitors ahead of us, people who had been well established. And by using the tools that we've been given, slowly but surely, all the things we talked about today with the ad fund, using social media, digital marketing, even those good old drop letters, get out there, get my exercise somehow or other. They've all worked to put us up really in the top of our market now.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job and consistent growth, 12 years, one of the starters and founders of the brand. I guess like you, Steve, looking at it, how do you think your growth as an office has helped impact your local community and the business owners that you serve?
Well, I think they tend to look at us as a resource. We network a lot with other professionals in our area, lawyers, CPAs, all types of people that sellers and buyers may want to know and have those resources, and they can look to us. They have now kind of learned to call Steve, call Marshall, call one of us, and say, I need a divorce attorney. I hope they don't need that, but whatever.
But you have one in just in case.
We have all those people and resources for them that go beyond just a banker and getting a deal done. And I think that gives us some other credibility.
Yeah.
And they look at us, as part of the community.
Yeah.
And we get involved with different organizations. We all of us contribute to some degree to a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
Yeah, true pillars of the community. Well, Stephen, it's been great working alongside you as a franchisee for the last, 12 plus years, 10 plus for me. You've done great work in San Diego North. If someone's listening right now to the podcast or watching and they're in your area and would like to get in touch, how can they reach you?
Well, very easy. You could call me anytime. My phone number, cell, is 858-699-3346, or email it. Hanson, Hanson at tworld.com.
Awesome.
I will take my phone call anytime.
Great. And we'll drop all of that information in the show notes. Steve, thank you for being on the
Jessica,
show. You're always
pleasure.
welcome here.
Always.
Thanks
so much. Good to see you again.
You too.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And we are talking to people and how they got started in the Transworld business. And there's no better story, I think, than Marc Lazarus, who's been with us before Transworld was Transworld, right? So why don't you start there and just give us a little bit.
Yeah.
Just hold up the mic a little bit.
I sold my business and I was looking for something to do, and I was looking at franchise brokering, and I wasn't so sold on that. But I found UFG had two different brands. They called it Biz One Brokers and Franchise Mart. So I said, I like two bullets in my gun. So I joined that. And it was interesting because UFG, I could see they were a good organization, but they weren't that great at the existing businesses. And when I heard that they were combining with Transworld, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Right.
That's going to be a great jump.
So tell us about New Jersey. I mean, you've been growing it. You've been, building it as we go along. It's a suburb, quote unquote, of New York, but it's a pretty active place, right?
Oh, yeah. I had my own business in Patterson, which I had sold. So I was very familiar with the area. Actually had another sales position before. So I knew my way around, and I was heavily into the industrial market. So I thought it would be a great place, and it has been. It's definitely it's dense, a lot of businesses, a lot of small industrial parks, and it's been a lot of fun working that area.
Yeah. So what do you see looking into the future? I mean, we were just in a presentation about stock sales, and I mean, there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it's definitely stabilized. Like when I had my own manufacturing business, a lot of my clients were leaving and moving offshore and down south and to Mexico, but that seems to have stopped. So it's a lot more stable. So I think that we're in a good market. Like I see it getting better. I definitely see an improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And I know you've been doing a great job in Patterson and the whole area of the North Jersey. And I grew up there, so I love watching what you do there. So thank you for all you've done, and I really appreciate it, Marc.
All right. My pleasure.
Thanks, Marc.
Okay. Thanks.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And we are talking about how people launch their business. And I grabbed Bill Roland from St. Louis West. And Bill, I mean, you have a unique story because you were already a business broker for many years. Absolutely. And you decided to join Transworld. So just talk about that, like how, when you decided to open your own firm and launch it with your family, which you've done a great job dragging your family along. Talk about how you decided to come aboard Transworld and how it's helped you launch.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started, like I said, we had a lot of background in what we did, but we were looking for infrastructure. We were looking for everything that was there. We interviewed everybody out there about who we were going to go with. Right. And you guys were top notch. So from the beginning, when we were at training, we were getting leads to us at training. We didn't even know what to do with yet in the system.
Right.
So the leads, the drop cards, the mailings, the original mailings that go out from corporate in the beginning, they were amazing. You've seen it. Mail is back.
Right.
Mailing is working right now. Now, keep an eye on it. Right. It'll slow down sooner or later. But the drop cards, the mailings, the meetings, the Chamber of Commerce meeting, the B&I meetings, all of that, just getting everybody out. When you talk to somebody, they love our industry. They want to know what it's all about. They're intrigued. If you just talk to people and then you answer your phone, you'll get business.
So, I mean, and you've made this a family affair. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I am partners with my son, my nephew, my admin who just came in is my little sister. My father actually is one of our brokers. He's part-time, but he's never going to quit working.
Right.
And I need somebody to tell me everything I'm doing wrong, although he's only been doing it for 6
right.
months.
Well, he's been doing that all his life, right? So he might as well keep going, right?
So no, it's a great dynamic. But then again, we've got I think 11 brokers right now.
Right.
And well, you know, one of our core values is treat everybody like family.
Right.
Just like Transworld's done with us.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Bill, thank you so much for joining Transworld. Hey. Thank you for all you're doing. You're doing a great job. Keep up the great work.
Well, thanks. We're happy to be here.
Hey, Jessica, you know what time it is?
Money time?
Almost. It's time for listing of the week.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Gonna have Wendy Conway here from St. Louis. And so you just closed a very nice deal. Tell me about it.
Yes, we did. Our office closed. We had an automotive center for sale. We listed it. 3 months later, had a contract on it. Buyer and seller worked very well together. Their relationship was really good. And we closed it 6 months later, and it was $1.3 million. Was our biggest deal.
Wow, very nice. So, was it making a lot of money?
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember how much what the SD is?
I do not. I don't remember the numbers, but
it sold for a pretty good multiple, obviously. Sounds like a very established place. 1.3. Was the real estate included as well?
There was real estate included.
Excellent.
And it was a family business. So it had been, going and it was funny. I told Bill, we went to closing and the two owners had their mechanics outfits on with grease on it.
Right.
So it was a whole group of us. So we got a really nice picture, but it just showed like a family business and, they were all really happy. So.
Nice. And was the buyer a young person?
Buyer was not real young, but he had already purchased a few automotive shops.
Okay, so this was an add-on for him, right?
An add-on.
Excellent. So it sounds like good deals for good people.
Absolutely.
Did he finance it or did the sellers finance it?
No seller financing, and it was SBA.
SBA loan. Okay, great. Well, that sounds like a great deal for a business that wanted to expand, was able to expand using SBA loans.
That's right.
Imagine that. Sounds like a great deal, Wendy. Wendy, what's the best way to get in touch with you if somebody else wants to do another deal?
You'll call us at 636-544-8422.
Excellent. Thank you for coming on. Congratulations. Great deal.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the show today. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends on social media. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. If you have questions, would like to appear, or have suggestions for topics for the show, get in contact with us through our website, thedealboardpodcast.com.